After becoming a superhero with the help of his regeneration powers, Deadpool continues to work as a mercenary that kills all kinds of criminals. Today he's on the roof of a tall building and calls his enemy to tell him he's coming before jumping through the window, only to be shot by a bunch of mobsters. Thanks to his powers, he recovers quickly and kills them all with his guns and katanas. He doesn't stop there, he travels all over the world infiltrating weird places to kill as many criminals as possible. After taking on the Yakuza, Deadpool finally returns to the USA and immediately takes on a new mission. As soon as he makes it to the criminals' hideout, he begins killing all the thugs without hesitation, showing how he can fight many men at the same time without the need for help. The leader Sergei rushes to hide in a bunker and watches on the security cameras how Deadpool eliminates all his men. After he's done with all the thugs, Deadpool goes to the bunker's door and asks Sergei to come out, but at that moment reinforcements arrive and Deadpool has to run away. Outside, his friend Dopinder is waiting with his cab to take him home. At his apartment, Deadpool meets with his girlfriend Vanessa and they celebrate their anniversary. Deadpool gifts her an arcade token that was a souvenir of their first date, and Vanessa gifts him her birth control as a way to say she's ready to have children. Deadpool is very happy with the idea, but the celebration is interrupted when he realizes that there's someone outside. He tells Vanessa to hide, saving her just in time from an incoming shotgun blast. At that moment, Sergei's reinforcements break into the apartment and start shooting everywhere. Deadpool immediately begins fighting them and manages to kill them all by using kitchen knives. After eliminating all the criminals, Deadpool checks on Vanessa and is relieved to see she's fine. However, Sergei suddenly appears in the doorway and shoots at Deadpool, only to miss his target and hit Vanessa instead. Deadpool jumps out the window to go after Sergei, but he's run over by a car, giving Sergei the chance to escape. Fortunately, a few meters ahead a truck ends up hitting Sergei's vehicle, causing him to get stuck. As Sergei fails to start the car, Deadpool shows up and picks Sergei up, hugging him in the middle of the street. They both end up being run over by an ambulance. Sergei is now dead, but Deadpool regenerates and has to deal with the grief and depression caused by Vanessa's death. He spends his time drinking too much and using illegal substances. After 3 days at his favorite bar, Deadpool goes to his old house where he meets an old lady friend who tries her best to comfort her friend. Her words aren't enough to go through Deadpool's guilt and he tries to self-delete in different ways. All those methods fail, so he goes more extreme by blowing up the apartment. This sends Deadpool to some sort of purgatory where he meets Vanessa's soul. He tries to reach out to her, but there's an invisible wall keeping them apart. Deadpool begins to call out to her, but Vanessa says that his heart is not yet in the right place and Deadpool is pulled back to the world of the living. At that moment, Colossus arrives at the apartment and picks up all the pieces of Deadpool's body to take him to the mansion where he lives with other mutants known as the X-Men, like Negasonic Teenage Warhead and her girlfriend Yukio. Deadpool continues to mope around the house, always thinking about Vanessa, so Colossus grabs him by the neck and convinces him that the X-Men are now his family, which Deadpool thanks with a hug. Somewhere else in a destroyed building, Cable finds the bodies of his family and after picking up his daughter's teddy bear, he uses his watch to suddenly disappear. Moments later he appears in the countryside and knocks down 2 men to steal their truck. Meanwhile, a young boy called Russell arrives at an orphanage owned by the Essex Corporation, which specializes in curing mutants. Russell is welcomed by the headmaster, a crazy guy who thinks mutants are sick and must be exterminated. The headmaster quickly realizes Russell equals trouble, so he makes all the other kids watch how Russell is constantly punished with electrocution. After many days of suffering, Russell finally snaps and begins to use his fire powers against the staff of the Institute, causing chaos and panic. The police try to contain Russell and fail, so the X-Men are called in. Colossus convinces Deadpool to go with them, and as soon as they arrive, Deadpool suspects something is wrong. He carefully approaches Russell, but the boy still gets scared and attacks Negasonic, who defends herself using a force field. Deadpool tries to calm Russell down, but Russell tries to strike him next and ends up shooting a fireball right at Colossus' chest, sending him flying into the news van. Tired of being nice, Deadpool draws his weapons and tries to make Russell surrender, but Colossus reminds him that the first rule of the X-Men is never to take a person's life even if they deserve it. Frustrated, Deadpool puts away his guns and slowly approaches Russell to gain his trust, but right when he's about to make progress, the headmaster comes out of the building. The mere sight of him triggers Russell's rage and he attacks Deadpool, who falls straight into a room on the 3rd floor of the Institute. Then Deadpool jumps back outside and throws one of his katanas at Russell, hitting him right in the forehead to knock him out. Afterward, the cops put a power-neutralizing collar on Russell so he can't use his powers. The headmaster thanks Deadpool for his heroic act and says that from now on his employees will take responsibility for the boy, but Russell begs to be arrested or taken anywhere other than being sent back to the Institute. Getting suspicious, Deadpool stops the employees from touching the boy and looks at him more closely, finding plenty of marks of aggression. When Deadpool asks, Russell confirms that the Institute hurt him, so Deadpool makes a speech on how he doesn't want to be the hero forever and shoots an employee right in the head. The headmaster and the other employees run to hide while Colossus manages to immobilize Deadpool, not understanding what is going on. Deadpool explains what the headmaster did, But Colossus says that the X-Men aren't judges and therefore can't condemn anyone. The cops use this chance to put a neutralizing collar on Deadpool, who is taken with Russell to the Icebox, one of the largest prisons for mutants in the entire country. The cops take them to a cell and punch Deadpool for his sassy mouth. Once they're alone, Russell says that they should form an alliance with the strongest prisoner, and Deadpool explains that there's a monster underground that would be perfect but they can't do anything as long as their powers are blocked by the necklaces. Since Deadpool has become mortal again, he begins to waste away because of the illness that his regeneration had been keeping at bay. Every day he becomes more and more debilitated, and although he's slowly losing his life, he's still forced to live through the prison's routine. During lunch, some prisoners make fun of Russell and he tries to defend himself with a pen, causing the thugs to knock him down. Deadpool tries to pretend he doesn't know him, but Russell calls him his friend and Deadpool ends up being beaten up too. Later at their cell, Deadpool gets tired and says he doesn't want to be friends with Russell. Meanwhile, Cable sees the report about the incident at the Institute, so he assembles a bunch of futuristic weapons and then breaks into the prison by blowing up a wall. As he defeats all the guards who try to get in his way, he stops by the control room and sets off a bomb that blows up all the computers, causing all the cells to open and free the prisoners. Then he checks on the cell numbers and goes after his victims, fighting and knocking down more guards on the way. When he gets a clear shot, he blows up Deadpool and Russell's cell, but thankfully they aren't inside. Thinking that Cable is hunting him, Deadpool asks Russell to stay away from him. However, Cable catches up to them and reveals he wants to kill Russell. Determined to protect Russell, Deadpool starts to fight Cable, but he's very weak and at an obvious disadvantage because of his illness. In the middle of the fight, Cable ends up shooting Deadpool's collar, which begins to fail. Russell distracts Cable to save Deadpool, so Cable goes after him and prepares to take him out, but at that moment Deadpool jumps on top of Cable. Both men fall to the second floor and the collar finally comes off for good. Cable ignores Deadpool and goes after Russell again, destroying the floor beneath the boy to make him fall too. As soon as Russell joins them, Deadpool fully recovers and begins beating Cable up with an iron bar. Then he steals Cable's gun and puts it on full power before firing a shot that throws Cable away. Afterward, Deadpool asks Cable to explain himself, but Cable only mentions his name and that he came from the future. Then Cable uses a magnetism device to draw the gun back to him and fires at the ceiling, knocking over a steel structure that nearly falls on Deadpool. Another fight ensues, but even if Deadpool has his powers back now, he ends up with a broken arm and a punctured thigh. He also gets punched so hard that it makes Vanessa's arcade token fly away. Cable takes the token as a souvenir of the fight, and when Deadpool gets up to retrieve it, Cable just punches him again before asking why he's protecting Russell. Not knowing that the boy's listening, Deadpool says he doesn't give a fig about him. While a disappointed Russell is captured by the guards, suddenly Deadpool pulls the pin out of one of Cable's grenades, causing an explosion so big that they're thrown out of the prison. The duo falls into the snowy mountains and begins to roll on the snow. Cable manages to hang onto a rock, but Deadpool hits his head and falls unconscious into a frozen lake. As soon as he touches the cold water, Deadpool ends up in that weird purgatory again and begs to be allowed in, but when Vanessa doesn't answer him, he starts thinking about what she said last time and finally realizes that Russell is the place where his heart should be. The realization pulls Deadpool back to reality, and after emerging from the freezing water, he goes straight to his favorite bar to create a plan to save Russell. His best friend Weasel informs Deadpool that the mutants will be transferred to another maximum security prison in a few days, so Deadpool decides to put together a team to rescue Russell. He puts up an ad and does some interviews, quickly gathering a powerful team: Bedlam, who can control electromagnetic fields, Zeitgeist, who can spit acidic bile, the Vanisher, who is invisible, Shatterstar, who is an alien with many powers, Domino with the power of luck, and Peter, who is just a dude. After closing up the bar, Weasel is kidnapped by Cable, who ties him up and promises pain if he doesn't talk. Since he's a coward, Weasel immediately tells him everything he knows about the plan. Meanwhile in prison, Russell steals the pudding from one of the prisoners and causes a huge fight in the mess hall. While everyone is distracted, Russell goes to the basement to look for the monster Deadpool mentioned and shares his food with it, gaining the creature's friendship. On the day of the transfer, Russell and the other prisoners are put on transport trucks, which soon reach the road. Deadpool and the team follow the truck by helicopter, but when they jump out, a strong wind causes everyone to lose their course. Deadpool lands on a billboard and survives, but the others aren't so lucky. Bedlam is run over by a bus, Shatterstar is crushed by a helicopter's blades, Vanisher is electrocuted by power lines, and Zeitgeist falls inside a wood chipping truck. Peter lands safely on the ground and rushes to help Zeitgeist, who accidentally pukes his acid on Peter and kills him too. Deadpool has to steal a scooter to go after their objective. Meanwhile, Domino's luck makes her land near the truck as planned. After dodging a bunch of obstacles, she jumps inside the vehicle, throws the driver out, and takes over the driving. Suddenly Cable appears and after blowing up a different truck, he manages to climb inside Domino's. At that moment, Cable realizes that Deadpool is chasing them with a scooter, so he starts throwing the cabins with the prisoners to try to take him down, but Deadpool manages to dodge them all. Then Deadpool tries to jump off his motorcycle and into the truck, only to crash to the ground. Fortunately, he's soon run over by one of the prison vehicles, so Deadpool jumps in, eliminates the driver, and uses a katana to help him drive. In the truck, Domino tries to fight Cable, but she's easily defeated. When Cable is about to kill her, Deadpool finally catches up and gets in the truck just in time to save her. Another fight between Cable and Deadpool ensues while Domino gets back behind the wheel, but when she tries to stop the truck she realizes that the bullet holes are causing the brake fluid to leak. While Domino tries her best to slow the truck down and Cable wastes bullets on Deadpool, Russell manages to open his cabin with a pen and goes to the monster's cell to finally free it. The creature turns out to be Juggernaut, who comes out and punches the ground so hard that it opens a crater in the road, causing the truck to overturn. Domino jumps out and lands on a giant balloon bear while Deadpool lands on the truck debris, having to fix his head before returning to the fight. However, Juggernaut simply walks over to Deadpool and splits his body in half. Unable to move, Deadpool tries to apologize for what he said, but Russell says he doesn't need him anymore and that he'll carry on with his revenge with the help of Juggernaut. After Russell leaves with his new friend, Domino carries Deadpool's remains to his apartment to wait for his legs to regenerate. Weasel shows up and tells them that he's been threatened by Cable, and at that moment Cable shows up too, surprising everyone by asking for help. He explains that Russell will eliminate the headmaster, and if this happens, he'll take a liking to killing and become a supervillain. In fact, it's an adult Russell who kills Cable's wife and daughter, and he's traveled back in time to save them. Cable knows he can handle the boy, but he can't fight Juggernaut alone. Deadpool understands Cable because if he could he would do the same for Vanessa, so he agrees to team up with the condition that he'll try to talk to Russell first. Realizing they'll need more power to go against Juggernaut, Deadpool asks Dopinder to take them to the mutant mansion. There, Deadpool apologizes to Colossus for disappointing him and tells him all about Russell and Juggernaut, but the X-Men refuse to help. Afterward they go to the orphanage, and Deadpool notices Cable's scorched teddy bear, which is stained with his daughter's blood. At that moment Russell and Juggernaut knock on the door, so Deadpool tries to convince Russell to give up his revenge to no avail. Suddenly Russell blows the door open and immediately begins chasing after the headmaster, starting fires all over the building. Outside, Cable, Deadpool, and Domino fight the Juggernaut. The trio tries their best, but their powers aren't enough to defeat someone this powerful, and soon Cable and Deadpool are defeated. Domino fires a grenade launcher and hits him in the face, but this does almost no damage. Deadpool ends up with a piece of metal piercing his head, and when he finally regains consciousness, he's surprised to discover that Colossus has changed his mind and decided to help. After rescuing Deadpool and ignoring his naughty promises of gratitude, Colossus runs up to Juggernaut and lands a straight punch to his helmet. But even though he's extremely strong, Colossus is still weaker than Juggernaut, so he must resort to dirty tactics to have a fair chance, like hitting him in the crotch. Meanwhile, Domino enters the institute and fights with the nurses to save the kids, but thanks to her super luck, the nurses pretty much eliminate themselves. Then Domino tries to leave with the children, but all the exits are on fire. At that moment, Juggernaut throws a bus to try to hit Colossus, but hits a window instead and forms a ramp for the group to escape. At the same time, Deadpool and Cable fight against the nurse guards outside and finally get to Russell, but even with Deadpool getting in front of the headmaster, Russell still attacks them with his powers. Cable uses his shield to defend them and grabs his gun to kill Russell, but Deadpool stops him from doing so. Suddenly Negasonic and Yukio arrive as well and rush to help Colossus in battle. First Yukio immobilizes Juggernaut's legs with an energized chain, then Colossus sticks a high-voltage wire to his backside, and Negasonic uses her supersonic powers to throw Juggernaut into the pool, causing him to be electrocuted. Back to Deadpool, he tries approaching Russell again, trying to convince him not to take anyone's life. Russell finally accepts Deadpool's apology and hug, but he also says he doesn't trust anyone before burning Deadpool's back. Determined to change Russell's mind, Deadpool puts on a neutralizing collar and goes to try with Russell one last time. However, Cable wants to prevent Deadpool from being Russell's first victim, so he uses his last projectile to shoot the boy. Deadpool notices this and jumps in front of the projectile, which hits his heart. When Russell sees that Deadpool has sacrificed himself for him, he finally realizes that he was blinded by anger and regrets everything. This automatically makes the bloodstains of the bear completely disappear, meaning Cable's family is fine in the future now. Then Colossus tries to remove the collar from Deadpool's neck, but Deadpool refuses, claiming that his goals have been completed and that his heart is now in the right place. Deadpool says a heartful goodbye to everyone and appears in Purgatory, where he can finally catch up with Vanessa. However, she says it's not his time yet, and at that moment, Cable uses the last charge of his time travel watch to go back to the time they arrived at the orphanage. Cable uses the moment Deadpool asks about the bear to place Vanessa's arcade token right where the projectile will hit. When the shot happens again, this time it hits the token and absorbs all the impact. As soon as Deadpool sees the object, he immediately realizes what Cable did and points out that he can't go back to the future now, but Cable says that what really matters is that his family is safe. Afterward, Russell takes Deadpool's collar off with his pen and they get ready to leave, only to be interrupted by the headmaster, who begins insulting them for being mutants. Suddenly Dopinder shows up and runs the headmaster over with his cab, killing him. Sometime later, Negasonic and Yukio manage to fix Cable's watch and Deadpool steals it for himself. He travels back in time to put a knife on Sergei's forehead before he hits Vanessa, saving her. He also tells Peter to run away. Then Deadpool goes to a bad movie that had an awful version of himself and kills him. He also goes to stop his actor from agreeing to make yet another bad movie. Lastly, he goes to see baby Hitler to kill him as well. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.